All right. Welcome to episode 305 of Together BHA. And it's a real cracker, this one, because we get to talk about whatever happened at Selhurst Park. Adam here, you joined by Robin. Robin, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. It's so exciting. We're squeezing this in on a Tuesday lunchtime in the UK and
Yeah.
first thing in the morning on a Tuesday over there. So that
Yeah,
shows you our enthusiasm.
we've gone out of our way to try and jam this recording into the most random possible time. It's hard
But no,
because
all good.
we were coming down from our high of watching the game, and it was hard to really sort of contain. We don't like to record when we're too excited, so we
Mm,
figured couldn't do it on Saturday. Sunday was still
no.
a bit too soon, so here we are.
Well,
Um,
Saturday would have been very premature.
Wait, was the game on Sunday? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
It was the game was so bad. I've forgotten when it was.
Saturday would have given us a better, probably more accurate recording.
I would have. I think I was. Yeah, maybe Saturday would have been nicer to do it because we'd have had the hope potentially.
Yeah.
But it was really one for the ages. 0-0 against Crystal Palace. We achieved between both teams collectively just over 1 xg that both teams managed combined. Um, Not a ton of stuff happened, but we'll talk about the things that did happen. And look, a point away at Crystal Palace is better than what has happened in the past. So at least we have that. Robin, what did you think of the lineup that you saw? Because we're in this weird phase now where Hertzler has decided that he's able to actually play the same players that he's played in previous games. And it's been some kind of revelation to him.
I know. I know we talked in the last episode. I think the only question mark was over whether Veltman would be fit enough to come in. That would have been that. That's the only question mark. I think in hindsight, it is as much as he's made for that kind of game, and we've seen him revel in Palace games, right? Just bringing out his ultimate, kind of shithouse game. I think after quite a few weeks out, it probably would have been a little bit of a stretch to chuck him back in from the start against their fairly effective attack. So no, I had
Well, let's
no
be clear.
complaints.
He came on with 15 minutes to go, and how I don't know what the odds were of him getting a yellow card, but you would have been paid out on it, obviously, when he picked up his 95th minute yellow card, because it was just there was no doubt about it.
No, it was always going to happen. So no, other than that, lineup wise, I think it kind of picks itself with Matoma still being. I know he was. They said he was 50-50, but in Albion terms, a 50-50 never results in that player being in the matchday squad in the game after they're declared 50-50. So, and I think Watson was the only other absentee, but he's apparently got an injury. As I said in our group, I live up in the northeast, and I did actually see him on Sunday morning. So I presumed that meant that he wasn't going to be playing. So
yeah, I don't know what his access to private jets are, but that's normally a sign that he's
not going to be he's not going to be there for a midday or a lunchtime kickoff. But no complaints really. I mean, the flip side of it, if you won 3-0 at home, and keeping a clean sheet, which is not what we tend to do very often. The argument is there's not really in there. The only thing is if someone is injured who's coming back into contention, and we know that no one fitted that bill. So I have no qualms with the team really.
Well, what's interesting is we talk about Matoma, and I still have been hoping to see his name pop back up in one of these lineups, and maybe that's we've got international break coming up now, right? Don't we again? So invariably it will be the first game back after that. But Doom raises an interesting point where Diego Gomez and his recent performances, he's currently our top scorer, I believe, on
he must be in all competitions.
7 or 8 goals in all competitions, I believe, is where he's at. And in fact, do I have that data correct? Because Danny Welbeck
he scored 4 against Barnsley on their own.
Yeah,
one
that
against.
helps him a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think he scored against Oxford. Did he score 1 or 2 against Oxford in the previous round? Definitely scored at least one against Oxford in the previous round. And I think he scored 2 in the league, so that gets you
He's
to
2 in the
7.
league, Welbeck 6 in the league, and he's
So I think he's 7 overall, I guess.
Yeah. So hey, look, I'm going to go back. Firstly, I'm going to go back to one of our original episodes prior to this season, where I claimed that Diego Gomez was going to be the player that turns into something special this year. And the first 3+ weeks of the season, he looked like he'd forgotten how to play football. Looked like maybe one of the worst predictions possible. And here we are. Diego Gomez looks like a hell of a player. But I bring this up purely to say we've sort of shoved him out on the left-hand side because that's the only place you can fit him in the team realistically, unless you want to create some defensive liabilities by playing him deeper, which I don't love what I've seen there.
No.
If Matoma comes in, who are you dropping?
Well, I mean, you could make an argument that Ruta needs a rest. You know, I've had this. He's been getting a little bit of, not flack, but a few people have kind of pointed out that I don't think he's scored since he was out injured, since before he was out injured. So I don't think he's scored since like April, maybe even before that. It might have been February when he was out injured. So obviously, and I don't think he's not firing on all cylinders this year, but I mean, a lot of them aren't. So you could make an argument that you put Gomez in the 10 role and Matoma comes back in on the left. But then you've also got, Koustoulas has come on a couple of times now and looked excellent in that role as well. So, I mean, he can't be that far away from a start. He scored at Old Trafford. He's just been called into the Greek squad. So you've got a nice little problem to have for Hertzler there. But I mean, I'm with you on Gomez at the moment. He's excellent. I mean, I think we'll get to it, but I think he had 4 shots in the match, which was, I think, double what anybody else did. And I think on the pitch that is, and I think Ruta and Welbeck between them produced 0 shots in the game, I think. Unless I missed a scuffed one from either of them.
This Root has been interesting over the last few games, where every time he gets the ball, he seems to be in a deep position, and there's 2 or 3 players just on him, and he manages to wriggle out of challenges like no other player on the team. And what was the game where he created that? He was the one that passed the ball out really nicely to Minte for him to get his on the right hand side. Do you remember that? What game was that?
Was that Spurs at home? Because Newcastle, so obviously had Leeds just gone. It wasn't that Leeds game.
It was more recent than that. I'm trying to think of when
Minte. Newcastle, was it Newcastle? No, he didn't score. Who scored? Newcastle was Welbeck scored both, didn't he?
Manchester.
Was it a home game?
It wasn't United, was it? No, it wasn't United. Anywho, the point I'm trying to make is at some point in recent memory, Ruta played a really fantastic ball down the right-hand side to put Matoma into play, and he just beat the offside trap. And I do feel like that was Newcastle, actually, thinking about it. And he assisted Welbeck on Newcastle, didn't he? So he's creating stuff, but he's absolutely not scoring.
He had a lovely little dummy last week, didn't he, in the Leeds game for Gomez's first goal, wasn't it?
Yep, that was a wonderful little dummy. So I think he's contributing, but if Matoma's fit, you're playing Matoma, right? There's no doubt about that. But let's get back to the game itself. I think for the rest of the lineup, it was fairly business as usual. I don't know though at which point. I'm interested in your thought on this. At which point do you give up on the Carlos Baleba comeback story?
I mean, the slightly annoying thing for us is that Carlos Baleba at like 50% effectiveness is still better than anybody else that can come in and play instead.
Well, we saw at the end of the game though, didn't we? When Veltman came on, Weaver must have just gone finally, looked up to the heavens and was allowed to actually play in his normal role.
Yeah.
and Baleba came off and he got to play in defensive midfield. I'm assuming if Veltman is now going to be fully fit, I wonder whether he just starts with that.
It would be nice to see. I mean, that's the question everyone's been asking for a while, which is, what do you get if you put Weaver in central midfield? I don't know. It's really difficult because then you look at it, you go, if you look at it from a pure commercial value now, the club are going, its value's dropping, right? Every week that he puts in a half-assed performance, his value is dropping. So the question you've got to ask is his value going to keep dropping more by continuing to put in half-assed performances, or is it going to drop more by putting him on the bench?
We're certainly not. It's certainly not going up by watching him play, is it? I almost feel like it's sort of the mystery box situation. If you don't play him, clubs might be like, "Oh wow, I remember him being really good. I bet he's still really good." Where if you play him and watch him play at the moment, it's sort of quite upsetting to witness.
It's very upsetting, considering, what we witnessed certainly towards the end of last season. I really thought he was on a trajectory. I think we all did. He was on a very kind of Caicedo-like trajectory, and you could argue at certain points of last season that he was kind of even more well-rounded than Caicedo.
We said multiple times that we think Baleba has the makings of a better project than Caicedo was.
Yeah, but I mean, he's still what? He's 21. Is he still? I think he's still very, very young. It's really difficult. You've got to imagine that there's going to be a comeback. Like, I don't think we're going to see an Evan Ferguson style, prolonged dip.
Yeah, please don't even.
I just can't
put that in the universe.
I say I'm at the point. I think you make an interesting point, which is when Veltman's fit, he's going to come back into the team. You'd have thought. Weaver's not played badly enough to be dropped. Like, I think we've said he's grown into that right back role, made a few assists, generally looked pretty solid. So you've got to go, well, fine. If Veltman's coming back in, then it becomes a straight shot between Weaver, Baleba, Ayari. I mean, Ayari's not been phenomenal overall either, I don't think.
I thought he was. I know we're not digging into the game too much. I actually thought he was one of our better players against Palace. And if we're talking about slim pickings for man of the match, Ayari would be one of the ones that I might even suggest.
Interesting.
But no one was spectacular, right? I think is probably the main conclusion. But I don't think, for me, Ayari is borderline undroppable from the team.
So then you make a decision to go, fine, well, it then becomes a Weaver or Baleba. And then, as you say, we actually don't have that much reference material on Weaver actually playing in what is supposedly his natural role. So then it's weird to say it's a gamble to play someone in there in a position where it's their natural role, but actually we've not seen him a huge amount. So I don't know. I'm probably still on the side of where it's probably you just keep picking Baleba until he gets better.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was, just to give you a rough idea, in that double pivot that we have going on against Palace, Yasin Ayari made 56 passes. Now, his pass accuracy was poor for him, 82%. Carlos Baleba made 26 passes against Crystal Palace.
Jeez, that's quite low.
26. Now, his accuracy was good, but 26. So he just straight up wasn't involved in the creation of much at all. Carlos Baleba put in one tackle and made one clearance. So Yasin Ayari more tackles, Weaver more tackles, Diego Gomez more tackles. Like pretty much everyone on the team. Like Carlos Baleba was fairly anonymous in terms of defensive work and creativity in that game. So whereas Ayari, even in or what is potentially not a good game for him, if you want to call it that, is still putting in performances where I think he's always able to make something happen and very rarely appears to be a liability, which is not what you can say about Belaber at the current moment. But let's talk a little bit about the game. It started out, we had a decent amount of the ball, and this is against a Palace team who have Gahey was out injured.
Yeah.
You have Adam Wharton, who is very clearly not 100% right. Obviously didn't play the full game. You can make an argument that maybe those are their two best players.
I think an Ismail Assar tends to turn up against us. Generally turn into a kind of prime.
He does.
Prime world-class winger.
But I think if you look at what two players are the most sort of valuable, if Crystal Palace were to sell them and Gahey wasn't at the end of the contract demanded to go to Liverpool, they're probably the two most valuable players.
Agreed.
So if there's and they're also a tired team, a small squad playing European football, this is the time where maybe you hope there's the ability to overcome them. We started out on the front foot, and in classic Albion fashion, about 4 minutes in, we decide to give the ball away very high up the pitch, and Mateta is able to basically have a run at goal because, as you mentioned, Sarr decides to just weave around about 3 people. And thankfully for us, Mateta just absolutely shanks it to the right side of the goal with no opportunity there. But once that chance happened, after that point, we had a large amount of control for the next, 20, 30 minutes of the first half.
Yeah, it really did.
In terms of creation that happened there, of what actually came from that, not a ton. I know there were a couple of chances. We had the Minte shot. We had a few Minte chances.
Gomez had a shot where he just he plucked the ball out of the air, didn't he? Had quite a good shot.
That was the one where he smashed it right at the keeper.
Yeah,
and if it was anywhere else, it was in.
It's in, yeah. And then, as you say, you had the best chance. I think that was right on half time, wasn't it? The Minte one. Because Gomez, Gomez nicked it off Wharton. And it's that kind of, the through ball is excellent. And it's really frustrating because it's sort of, those are the chances that Minte has been gobbling up recently. If you go back to periods of last season, it's the sort of chance where he made a mess of it. But in recent times, that's the kind of chance that he's been. If you think about the Spurs goal that he scored, in the home game a few weeks ago, very similar to that. Played through, goes around the goalkeeper. Thanks for coming. I expected it somewhat naively. I expected him to score.
Minte, I think, has been, over the course of the season so far, at this point, our best player. And I don't think that's particularly controversial. People will make a case for Danny Welbeck. Let's not forget, at the start of the season, for the first few weeks, Danny Welbeck looked absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, he did. He was done, didn't he?
He looked every part of his age.
Yeah.
And Minte has consistently looked like our most dangerous player. But this was not his best game.
No.
Everything that could go wrong in terms of his finishing and his final touch went wrong against Palace. The exception to that is that he put in a number of really nice crosses with his left foot. And it's become quite a thing for him, where instead of just running down to the touchline and trying to dance around players, which he still does, obviously, he tends to cut inside now and just swing a cross in with his left foot. And a couple were overhit, but a couple were actually really, really good.
Yeah.
That's something
I haven't looked
seen
at the
earlier in this
stats,
game.
but I haven't looked at the stats, but it felt like we had loads more crosses than they did across the game. I might be wrong, but it felt like it.
I'd have a guess how many crosses Minte put in.
Must have been 7 or 8.
9.
Yeah, jeez.
1 was accurate, technically.
You've got to, like you say, you've got to be in with a chance. Like
you've got to do them for them to work.
Yeah.
But so not wonderful in terms of statistics, but he put in 9 crosses. Ferdy put in 5, and Gomez.
What do we have? We
4.
must have had 20 plus over the game, didn't we?
I'm trying to add these up. 14, 18, 20. It's about 26 plus crosses there.
It's got it actually here. It's got it on the BBC website. We put in 26 crosses and they put in 11. They put in 11.
Their biggest, the person putting the most crosses for them was Adam Wharton.
Oh, interesting. Fair enough. I mean, say we kind of try, and I guess that shows in the XG, right? Like, ultimately, the quality of the crosses was not there.
Yeah, as we say, it's cliche to say at this point. On another day, 1 or 2 of those pings in, and you're having a very different conversation. But it was outside of that Minte mess up and the Diego Gomez opportunity, it was not a classic first half. Brighton Hove Albion an XG of 0.25 and Crystal Palace an XG of 0.28.
That felt generous. I didn't watch that first half. That felt generous.
Yeah, no one particularly covered themselves in glory in the first half. That is for sure. And everyone goes into. And I'll tell you, just if you go on SofaScore and you can look at commentary and select by key events. I'll tell you what it has for the first half. 1, first half begins. 46, second half begins.
I mean, that's very fair. That is entirely fair.
Surprisingly, though, halftime happens. There's no changes, and we come out, and in the second half, we are able to cobble together a total of 0.14 xG with a total of 3 shots. That was our second half. Crystal Palace, you could argue, had the better overall of the second half, even if they didn't have the majority of possession. But let's talk a little bit about the game flow here. I think we have to flash to 63 minutes in. Jorginho Rutter weaves his way into the box and goes down. And the referee, who was one of the most confounding referees I think I've watched in a while, Tim Robinson.
From West Sussex, by the way.
Bizarre. A lot of bizarre decision-making from that man. But he points to the spot, and then it goes to the VAR, and he reviews it, and it's concluded that Rutter dived, and he gets a yellow card for simulation. What are your thoughts on that whole unfolding of events?
I mean, it's one of those events that you can look at, and it really comes, and it's very obvious to say, but it really comes down to the angle. Because there are certain angles where you look at it and you go, well, that's just a penalty, isn't it? Like, clear-cut penalty. And then as soon as you get the telling angle, like, well, it's clearly a dive. I mean, when you actually see all the angles available to you, I don't think anyone can conclude that that's anything other than a dive, right?
I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt. Because, there's obviously a collection of players out there who are very much always guilty of going down very easily under challenges. And I wouldn't put Rutter in that grouping. But I think when you are surrounded by 3 players, even if there isn't an egregious foul that's happening, just by sheer product of being surrounded by that many individuals while you're dancing around a football, I would fall over. And that's without the football. So did he dive, or did he just kind of go down based on the pressure of all the players around him? Only he knows that. The fact that he throws his foot out to make it look like it's been more egregious is the reason why this gets clawed back and he gets a yellow card. If he doesn't fling his right foot out and knock it into the defender, I don't think he gets a yellow card, and I think we just kind of continue the game. But it was against Canva or whoever it was that came in for Gahey.
It's difficult. I mean, it's very difficult because then you kind of think, obviously, you're trying to get inside his head, and you go, if you're a player in that situation, in that magnitude of game, that is very tight. Like, does that come into it? Do you think? Does that come into your decision making? Going, right, if I can get one over the ref here in a very tight game that ends 1-0 to Brighton, like, I don't know whether that comes into it, whether the magnitude of the game or the circumstance of it, going, nothing's happening in this game. Like, we need to make something happen.
Maybe, but I don't know. I don't think. Do these players think anymore that they can get away with anything? Because you always
there's so many angles. Like, that's what I mean. It's gonna be looked at, and I guess maybe, I don't know. You're right, and obviously it's for them, the speed of it. Like you say, you're trying to navigate around 3 or 4 players in close proximity.
And Wharton's putting his arm across him. Like, it's not like he's untouched.
Yeah, it's fair. And obviously, we think about it is, you're basically trying to weave around 3 or 4 players. And as you said a minute or so ago, and also keep hold of the ball, right? Like, the fact that you're able to physically maneuver around people without a ball at high speed is difficult enough. And when you throw in trying to keep hold of the ball and work out where you are in relation to goal and where's the position of the goalkeeper. So if you can get a shot away, where are you shaping your body? All of that happening in a split second is very difficult. But I'm totally with you. He kind of overplayed it too much, which then lends itself to going, well, has that happened? Has he only overplayed it at the end to try and up the effect of it, or was it a dive? I don't know. Either way, I think when you look at it, all the angles available, objectively, you go, that can't be a penalty.
The easiest way, the mental exercise that we always do with penalties is, if this happened at the other end of the pitch, how would you feel?
It's a scandal.
It's a scandalous absolute disgrace. Yeah.
It is. Like, if we'd have lost this game 1-0 off the back of Mateta hitting the ground like that, we'd have been absolutely
pitchforks.
Yeah. Like, genuinely, you really would. So yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
All right. So general conclusion is no penalty.
Penalty.
We then get into this sort of malaise phase of the game where just football happened.
Was that massive? Where Baleba lost the ball to Wharton?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Sarr and Kamada just got in each other's way and just messed that up. I think was that before the penalty or after it? It was certainly around that kind of time where I just thought,
I don't know. And I say this because I was talking to you beforehand. For the people listening, over in the US here, we get all our Premier League games are on like NBC's coverage, and we have Peacock, their app, and you can watch every game, right? And for every single game, they give you extended highlights to watch back. They just didn't bother with this game. there is no extent. I think they looked at the game and they went, we can do highlights, but extended is impossible for us to do, and they just didn't bother doing it. So normally we can reference quite easily all of the little points that come up and any interesting things that happen. And in this game, the Peacock individuals deemed it so uninteresting that they just wouldn't bother doing that. So it may have happened before the penalty thing. It may have happened afterwards. I've got nowhere.
I can't remember. It was kind of around that time. I just remember thinking, oh, this like Balaba's just, it's just been a little bit. I think talking about him before, something that he was very, very good.
It had to be before, because Wharton went off at the straight.
Yes, no, you're right. Yeah, no, it had to have been before. You're exactly right. But something, just going back to Balaba quickly, something that he was very good at towards the end of last season was his awareness of where he was on the pitch and who was in proximity to him. If he needed to get out of a situation, very similar to Caicedo, right? If you need to wriggle your way out of a situation, he knew exactly who was where and what his exit strategy was. This year, here he is.
Josh is here.
He's dragged himself out of his sick bed to come and talk about Carlos Balaba's ineptitude.
If there's anything that will raise you from the dead,
This is it.
it
It's
is
Carlos
this.
Baleba.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, he was very, very good at knowing exactly where he was, where the ball was, who was around him, and knowing how he could get out of him. This season, I feel like just the sort of eye test of looking at it, I feel like he's sort of not shown that ability. I feel like he's been caught a few times this season in possession like that. Hi, Josh.
Josh, how you doing? We're waxing lyrical about Carlos Baleba.
Yeah.
Are we? That's brave.
We were just talking about the chance for Palace in the second half where Baleba was robbed by Wharton, and then Sarr and Kamada managed to make a complete mess of it. And I was just saying that last season, one thing that Baleba was very, very good at was knowing who was around him on the pitch, like being able to control that situation.
His head was on a swivel all last season.
Yeah, it was.
He
and
always
he's
looking around constantly, and he would play with he would receive the ball from the defense or from Verbruggen, as you say, and he would always dance around the oncoming midfielder that was trying to basically pinch the ball from him. And he would always swivel away and he would drive forward. And how many times did we see that last season? And you're right. Now he gets the ball and you're like, well, how's this going to go wrong? And I don't know whether it's Mr. Rocker in the chat saying Baleba has confidence issues, not driving with the ball, lots of back passes, looks afraid. It's got to be. It's not. We know it's not physical at this point. It has to be a mental issue.
Yeah, it has to be confidence. Yeah, it has to be.
Because last season he was playing with this air of, I'm going to do whatever I want, and now he's overthinking it. He's kind of got the yips with some of his.
He has. That's a good way of putting it.
So yeah, a little bit unfortunate, but you're right. That was an opportunity. Carlos Baleba loses the ball. We talked about the penalty and how it wasn't a penalty, and Ruta was probably deservedly shown a yellow card. And then we went into this period of play. Wharton came off, Pino came on, and Crystal Palace tried to make something happen. And really not a lot occurred for a good 10 plus minutes. And Villa decided that with 15 minutes left to go in the game, I'm going to go ahead and make some substitutions and see what happens. The players we talked about that have maybe been not playing to their absolute best, Ruta came off, Costulas came in, and Carlos Baleba came off. Veltman came on, back from his injury. As we talked about earlier, Veltman goes to right back. Weaver goes into an absolutely unknown position for him, a defensive midfielder, Josh, hooting and hollering, and static that we're playing him in the right place for 15 minutes. And then we still didn't really create a ton of stuff.
No, not really. Not really at all. Let's say, I know we alluded to it earlier. I think Costolas is he looked excellent. I know we're only getting relatively short bursts of him here and there. But he's looking excellent. Josh, we were saying earlier that when Matoma comes back into contention, given how well Diego Gomez is playing, given Costolas is looking decent in spells, there's a conversation to be had around that 10 role with Ruta. How's Ruta looking in comparison? So it's interesting to see a few players kind of auditioning. We're not even talking about Gruder as well, coming back at some point, presumably. I don't know in Albion terms, we may see him in 2028 at some point. But yeah, there's certainly a conversation to be had around that, because I thought Costolas is looking better and better every time I see it.
We're also quite privileged, right? In that gives Mitoma the chance to actually recover properly instead of throwing him straight back in. It's like, okay, we have a lot of guys that are capable. Like Gomez, the goals last week changed him entirely. He seemed quicker. He seemed more ambitious. Like, he just looked a better player against Palace. Like, he looked much better. Which one of you two has said Ayari has not been great this season? I'm looking in the chat. Which one of you two has said
Who do you think said that?
Honestly, it could be either of you, because neither of you are big Ayari fans. But
I said this year I didn't think he'd been I didn't think he'd been overall amazing.
And I think he's been one of our best players. Probably.
I think he has been one of our best players. I think he's been phenomenal in the role he's been asked to play. And when he has been playing alongside part-time Baleba, like it's made him look all the better, I think. So
it was in the context we were having a conversation about basically what do we do with Baleba, which is do you keep playing him and hope that he just turns a corner, or do you bench him? And we talked about it in the context of Veltman coming back, and then Weefer's. I said, Weefer's not. I don't think Weefer deserves to be dropped with Veltman coming back in. So then you're into this quandary of what do you do about Baleba, what do you do about Weefer, and then what then consequently happens with Ayari.
I mean, yeah, like
you're from 3.
You're talking about players like being our best player. I'd argue that Weefer was one of our best players on Sunday. Like,
yeah,
I thought
I'd say it.
At a position that he still doesn't really want to play. So, like for me, I just feel, I feel like Weefer is now becoming a Jack Hinchelwood conundrum in that you've asked him to play in a role that isn't his role, and he's getting better and better at it as he learns it. And he's getting to a point now where people are starting to become fit, or others are having the question asked. But now he's actually doing well enough that you shouldn't drop him. So, like, it's not us that have the problem.
It's really difficult.
Weefer, you got to keep playing Weefer. I have a slightly maybe different opinion. I thought he was great in parts against Palace, and he put in some really thunderous tackles. There was a big sliding tackle he put in at one point, and was like, "Oh, all right, this is what it's all about." But he gave the ball away a lot as well, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, I mean, I think he's been good. Not an ideal world, because the ideal world would feature Carlos Baleba playing to his ability. But I'd be dropping Carlos Baleba at this point. I really would. And I would play Weefer in the holding role, and I would put Veltman at right back. We know what Veltman is at right back, and I like that. Someone mentioned in the chat we need another right back. Ferdy Kadioglu. I don't know why we don't do it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, and then to Kuiper on the left. Like that to me, that seems an odd. Like maybe unless Ferdy has expressed a very strong preference to play on the left. And we've seen that's where he's effective. But he pops up everywhere. Doesn't really matter where he's starting. He seems to just cover every blade of grass at some point.
I mean, he played there against Arsenal, right? As part of that back 5, he played right wing back, which is where he really became not a household name, but a well-known name for like knowledgeable football fans at the Euros, right? Like it was that.
Well, that's what we didn't know anything about him.
It was doing really well. Like it was that right wing back role at the Euros that he was playing really well.
Well, he played left back for Turkey for the most part. I feel like I played a decent chunk at right back for Fenerbahce.
I think he played on the right wing as well. He's played a decent chunk of games on the wing, I think.
Well, can we talk? Let's talk about this because we've been throwing shade at a bunch of players and talking about how crap this game has been. But let's talk about the shining examples, and we just brought 2 of them up, right? I think you have the ability at this point to get excited about Kostulas and Ferdy Kadioglu. There's been question marks about Kadioglu. Obviously, a disastrous first season. Then he came in, and I think people were sort of their expectations. He was playing below those for a little bit of a while, and you thought, "Hold on, is this guy just not it?" Last few games, he has been a machine. Tired, pops up everywhere. He tracked back at one point, and he was like completely across the other side of the pitch, making a challenge at like right back when he was playing on the left. It's like, why is he there? It's like that meme. It's like, why is there a polar bear in Texas? And he's just been absolutely excellent and can basically play everywhere across the pitch, as we just talked about. I've been so impressed with Ferdy Kadioglu, and I'm so happy about it because I was really excited when we signed him. And you can't have a worse first season than that unless you're named Matt O'Reilly. And he's come good. He's come very good.
Yeah, I mean, I've found myself every game recently, I've found myself going, well, that was his best game for us. From the Newcastle, I thought the Newcastle game was the first game for me where I watched him. Probably helped I was there, so I could actually see, when you watch it live, you can actually see how much you can actually see how much ground someone covers. Whereas that Newcastle game, I thought he was phenomenal, and every game since then, he's been terrific, absolutely terrific. He's 100% now the player that we hoped he would be.
Yeah, I mean, no notes. Like, I agree, and I think the obvious loser in this is De Kuiper, which is a shame because I really liked those two playing up next to each other in the Newcastle game. Like, I thought they looked really problematic for that backside, like that entire right side for Newcastle. They didn't know who was going to defend and who was going to attack at any given time because both are quite capable of doing both. Like, it's a really odd.
I don't know about De Kuiper defensively. I don't know.
Well, I think that's probably why he's missing out, right? Like, it probably is why he's missing out, because I've been really impressed by Ferdy's one-on-one defensive ability this season. Like, given that he has been such an attacking fullback and wingback in his entire career, like watching him again, like you say, Robin, like watching him live on those moments where he's right in front of me in the North Stand and like he's like facing someone up one-on-one. I've been really impressed by how difficult he is actually to beat. Like, it's been good. So yeah.
And let's talk about Costulas as well, because we've seen a lot less of Babis, but we've seen cameos at this point. And I said this to you guys in the chat, and Robin already highlighted how he looks like a player in there, which you would expect, by the way. This guy wasn't cheap. It's not like we found this guy in Hungarian third division. Like, this cost a lot of money. He's meant to be good, by the way. But his ability to use his body to protect the ball is something I absolutely did not expect to see from him. And I don't know what I expected out of him. Maybe a guy that's a bit silky, go and create chances. But what I didn't expect was my biggest takeaway from seeing him play is his use of his body to protect the ball and his heading ability, which is what he did when he scored the other week. Like, this is a really interesting project that we have.
Yeah, and in the I'd add to that, the Arsenal game, we watched him carrying the ball, trying a few step overs, looking quite technical. So he's shown in his various cameos basically every aspect that you'd want from any sort of attacker, really. He's got the attributes of a target man, physically and in the air, but he also is very, very technical. I know this is it's not an exact comparison, but he's sort of, in a way, like Voltemada. Now, that kind of slightly unpredictable, unexpected, very technical player, given his physical attributes. I'm really excited about him, considering he is 18.
Do you know,
I'm really, really excited about it.
So am I. And I think, as you say, like holding up the ball at his age as well, like I'm really impressed by his like just knowledge of the ball and where it's going to drop. I think when we first saw him against Oxford and then Barnsley, it's like, okay, like, yeah, he's good, but we're also playing Oxford and Barnsley, like, and he came on for 10 minutes or 6 minutes. And I think for you said, like, the Arsenal game was the one where it was like, all right, like, he's playing against some top level opposition and he still looks incredibly comfortable, very easy to just hold the ball, play the ball. And I know we're like looking at comparisons. Like, for me, he looks and didn't look, but like he plays like Cavani for me, like a baby Cavani. Like, he's got all of the style and substance of what I imagine he looked like at 18 and 19, because obviously he's not anywhere near as good yet. But like, I can see him becoming that kind of problem where he could sit anywhere in there and just be this luxury player for a massive side that can just cause problems absolutely everywhere. And at this level, could be one of the people that, a little bit like João Pedro, that you hang your hat on to grab you 3 points when no one's doing anything. I like him as well. Obviously, we're all very impressed with him because we're all saying very nice things. But I thought
which is unusual. I was going to say, I also want to talk about Lewis Dunk.
Oh, what?
Because
from one end of the age spectrum to the other.
Yeah, it's one to the other. Like, and we just mentioned we've given some shade to players this season, and we've given a fair amount of shade to Lewis Dunk at various points. But I thought he was brilliant on Sunday. I really did. Considering Mateta's form and Mateta's attributes, as generally we know the kind of physical centre forward that Dunk has struggled with in the past, I thought Dunk was brilliant.
He was. I'll piss on your parade a little bit in the sense that if he can't perform in this game, we've got a problem. Like this was a Palace side that sat quite deep and played on the counter attack for the most part at home. They had one man up top who was shanking the ball whenever he got it. This is the type of game that Lewis Dunk is comfortable in. Not a big rivalry, can get stuck in. He doesn't need to track back and sprint backwards for half of the game. There wasn't any point where he was sort of under threat of a sort of one-on-one, or he'd misplaced a pass and had to sort of run back and get mispositioned. This is not when I'm ever worried about Lewis Dunk in these types of games. The games I'm worried about is where we're pushed up at the halfway line and another team is playing 2-3 up top and they can just run at us. That's where you see the issues with Lewis Dunk. I've got no problem with him in a game like this. But Josh, I don't know what you think.
Yeah, pretty much what we've talked about all season. When we're playing that more sit deep role and quite happy to hit them on the counter attack, which seemed to be the plan yesterday, I've got no issue with him. I think he's played really well. But when he is expected to, when we're pushing forward and we're playing a game against someone like Leeds, right, and we're lucky enough not to have Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front, like it's going to be a very difficult situation. I would not want to see, for example, I am not looking forward to watching Lewis Dunk defend against Sunderland if we go and play aggressively against them, because that's exactly the sort of team that are going to cause him a ton of problems, even though they're not. I know they're like fifth or whatever right now, but the media aren't really talking about what their run-in has looked like. So I'm kind of going to give it another 10 games yet before anyone gets too carried away about them. But I still want Lewis Dunk to defend against them, because that's the sort of thing he struggles with: pacey, quick counter-attacking football. We haven't played a lot of that so far this season.
I think it'd be interesting to see what he does against Brentford, quite honestly, because they've been a weird
kid.
Yeah, exactly. He looked excellent against Newcastle.
I mean, they're what a weird team, Brentford are. Like they're kind of like us in terms of results. They beat Palace, they beat Newcastle, and then they lose to get battered by Fulham.
Have they not? Correct me if I'm wrong. Did they not used to, like, under Frank? They played a lot. They've done quite well to flex their style to an extent, right? Like, it feel like they played nicer football under Thomas Frank than they do under Keith Andrews. Like, they've just. I know he was the set piece coach, right? And I know I just watched the highlights, but basically the highlights of match today were basically just long throws from Brentford for about 10 minutes.
I mean,
like, there'll be an interesting
defense.
But I mean, like, back to your point, like, is that not the kind of game that Lewis Dunk's going to be quite comfortable with? If they're just going to be lobbing long throws and set pieces into the box, you'd back him to head balls away all day.
That bit, yeah, it's the counter-attacking bit.
It's the counter-attack. Yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll see how they play. I haven't watched enough of Brentford this year beyond making conclusions about Thiago and Damsgaard's form and the fact that Jordan Henderson continues to sort of be quite an astute signing for them.
I have got a work call to jump to in 2 minutes, so I'm going to be. I just want to jump in really quick and say one more positive thing, because we never say positive things, right?
Yeah.
Any discussion, I think, about being worried about a number one goalkeeper should be dissipated after these first 10, 11 games. The improvement of Bart Bruggen this season has been monumental. Like, some of the saves he made this season, great. This weekend, match changing.
Was that one he dived really low to his right? Was it Kamada that shot in, or someone
right at the end?
That was Pino, right at the end.
Pino,
yeah. But I think he's been phenomenal. He commands his box much better than he used to. Obviously, this goalkeeping staff change has helped massively. I haven't seen the stats since like 3 weeks ago, but he is at 0 in terms of like errors leading to goals.
We said that last week, right?
Yeah,
we said we couldn't
last year.
Yeah, we said last week we couldn't remember. We couldn't remember anything, any moment this season where you could pin anything on Bart, like that's led to a goal.
Which is just great.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree
very
with you,
happy
it's
to
been-
see it.
Yeah,
I'm sure the more consistent backline helps. Right, he's been very much sat with Duncan, Van Hecker, and Weaver as part of his defensive setup all season, and only had to really worry about the left side, which is also managed by Dunkey as well. Right, so that's probably helped him massively. But yeah, I've got to drop now. But I think he's been excellent, and I think we're very happy to be able to go. No need to worry about that anymore. The only thing I would say to worry about if we want to have negativity, just to sign off on,
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
Carl Rushworth is having the season of his life again. We have to make a decision there sooner or later.
Who
Yeah.
was the match?
You are?
Who was your man of the match?
My man of the match was probably Bart, because he's the reason we won a point. Some of those saves, one in the first half from Saar. That save was absolutely brilliant. And then the one late on that you brought up, Adam, just there was worth 1 point for me, because most keepers aren't saving that, and he did a really great job. So
yeah, all right. I like it. Cheers, Josh. We're gonna wrap here in a second. Robin, who's your vote for man of the match? Obviously, Iari, right?
Diego Gomez. I think it has to be. I think he was, like we talked about, he covered so much distance. He had double the number of shots, as we said earlier, to anyone else on the pitch. He laid on that chance for Minte in the first half. I think it has to be him on balance. Like we said, we struggled, a lot of the team struggled to do anything in an attacking sense. And I think he was really the guy who, if we were going to get a win, it was going to come through him doing something. So probably him. Honourable mentions to Bart and Kadioglu probably would be my top three.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to, I think I'd like to vote for Ferdy in terms of what he looked like when he was playing, and like we talked about how he was everywhere on the pitch. From a stat standpoint, he wasn't particularly impressive. I'll go with my sort of semi-default position for this season, which is Van Hecker. I think it was particularly astounding, but I don't remember any egregious mistakes. And I don't know. He's such a good player. There's his ability to find passes, get forward, and then also be just solid as a rock at the back. He's just, I don't know what else you can say. He's typical perfect defender.
It's really difficult, isn't it? Because sometimes when you're picking a man of the match, if you've got someone like Van Hecker who's always giving you like 7 or 8 out of 10 every week, the variances, like you don't see it. Like if he, like, I guess to an extent, we might be getting there with Kadioglu soon. If he continues just to put in this every week, it gets to a point where it's almost a given. Like it's not a surprise if he performs like that. Maybe as Josh said, Gomez, since he started to score a few goals recently, he's now suddenly upped his level, and it's really noticeable, like the positive change. So it's difficult, but it's nice. I mean, no one had a really terrible game. Perhaps Baleba was the most terrible in this, given that he gave the ball away a couple of, but 0-0 draw. It's another clean sheet, 20 odd games without one. And now we've had a couple in 2 games. Like it's a game, like you said, even with Palace being knackered after their European games, we've only won at Palace twice in my lifetime, I think.
I'll give you a vote for worst player that isn't Carlos Baleba. How about that?
Worst player that wasn't Carlos Baleba. Yeah, probably Ruta.
He had no
Welbeck,
shots.
I mean, Welbeck as well. No shots, I don't think.
Zero shots from either of them. From a passing standpoint, Ruta made 18 passes with a 66% pass accuracy, which was borderline offensive.
And what was ours overall? 85%, something like that. Felt like not many went astray.
I don't have it in front of me, but
that's all right.
That's a bad.
It's a bad day.
The bad number for Ruta, especially given that Danny Welbeck was at the other end of the spectrum for that. Even though he didn't do a lot in terms of shots on target or anything, he was our most accurate passer, Danny Welbeck. Only 14 passes, but a 93% pass accuracy. So yeah, not a great day for Rutan. Obviously got the yellow card for simulation. So
yeah, for his simulation.
Well, let's see what happens. We've got the international break. We're gonna come back. You're gonna have a fit Matoma, a fit Veltman, and possibly we'll see what happens with Gruder and Watson and co. But it might be a case, well, like you said earlier, Mitoma comes in, you give Ruter a game or two to come off the bench, and Gomez pops into that 10 role, and we see a different setup.
I felt like we saw that earlier in the season, didn't I? I feel like Ruter sat a couple of games out for Gruder to start, didn't he? Earlier in the season, I feel like he was on the bench potentially once or twice.
Hertzl has gone through phases with dropping Ruter. He doesn't seem scared of it, so yeah, we'll see.
But I think we'll see what we get. But I think final comments on this game is it's one of those weird ones. You go, if you were offered, if on Sunday morning someone had offered you a 0-0 in this game, personally, I'd have been biting their hand off at that.
Yeah, I just don't want to watch it.
No, exactly. Like I often say to people who go, when these fixtures come out every year, like I would quite happily take 2 1-1 draws and just not play the games.
I think this season, given where Palace are at, I do want to play these games because I think we can capitalize on them. And especially when it gets to February and we play at home against Palace, depending on what they've done in Europe and where their squad has been depleted. And if Gahey is left in January, they're going to be a mess. And I want to get 3 points against them. So
yes, I would agree.
We'll see. All right. We will be back in... Well,
2 weeks, isn't it?
Brentford, weeks, give or take. We on the 22nd of November, we play Brentford at home. Enjoy whatever international nonsense is going to happen prior to that point. But hopefully, we're talking to you after a comfortable home win against Brentford, potentially on the 23rd of November is when we'll likely record. So,
yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, everyone.
Cool. Thanks all for listening.
Thank
we
you.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
See you next time.
Bye.